Trevor the traction engine enjoys living in the vicarage orchard on the island of Sodor. Edward, the blue engine, once helped save him from being turned into scrap. So now Trevor lives at the vicarage, and the two engines are great friends. He comes to see Trevor every day. Sometimes Trevor is sad because he doesn't have enough work to do.
I like to keep busy all the time, Trevor sighed one day, and I do like company, especially children's company.
Cheer up, smiled Edward. Sir Topham Hatt has work for you to do at his new harbor. I'm to take you to meet Thomas today.
Oh! exclaimed Trevor happily. A harbor by the seaside? Children, that would be lovely.
Trevor's freight car was coupled behind Edward, and they set off to meet Thomas. Thomas was on his way to the harbor with a trainload of metal pilings. They were needed to make the harbor wall firm and safe.
Hello, Thomas, said Edward. This is a friend of mine. His name is Trevor. He's a traction engine. Thomas eyed the newcomer doubtfully. A what engine? He asked. A traction engine, explained Trevor. I run on roads instead of rails. Can you take me to the harbor, please? Sir Topham Hatt has a job for me. Yes, of course, replied Thomas, but he was still puzzled. Workmen coupled Trevor's freight car to Thomas's train, and soon they were ready to start their journey. I'm so glad Sir Topham Hatt needs me, called Trevor. I don't have enough work to do sometimes, you know, although I can work anywhere. In orchards, on farms, in scrapyards, and even harbors.
But you don't run on rails, puffed Thomas.
I'm a traction engine. I don't need rails to be useful, replied Trevor. You wait and see.
And they chuffed down the track. When they reached the harbor, they found everything in confusion. Freight cars had been derailed, blocking the line, and stone slabs lay everywhere.
We must get these pilings through, said Thomas's driver. They are essential, Trevor, he said. We need you to drag them round this mess.
Just the sort of job I like, replied Trevor. Now you'll see, Thomas. I'll soon show you what traction engines can do. Trevor was as good as his word. First he dragged the stones clear with chains. Then he towed the pilings into position. Who needs rails? He muttered cheerfully to himself. Later, Thomas brought his two coaches, Annie and Clarabelle, to visit Trevor. Thomas was most impressed. Now I understand how useful a traction engine can be, he said. Mrs. coaches were full of children, and Trevor gave them rides along the harbor. Of all the jobs he did at the harbor that day, he liked this one best of all.
He's very kind, said Annie. He reminds me of Thomas,
added Clarabelle. Everyone was so sorry when it was time for Trevor to go. Thomas pulled him to the junction. A small tear came into Trevor's eye. Thomas pretended not to see and whistled gaily to make Trevor happy. Thomas. Yes? Thomas said, I'll come and see you if I can. The vicar will look after you, and there's plenty of work for you now at the orchard, but we may need you again at the harbor someday. That would be wonderful, said Trevor happily.